Okay, we're going to start as always with Rory. Please go ahead.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Then it's not easy to win tests and series away from home in Test cricket after a couple of tough ones this year. What has it taken to get the job done this time?
What's it taken? Well, it was to play the more sort of dominant cricket, I think, over the days that we've played so far. We've been in, this Test match in particular, day one being 40 for 4, to then end up, being here on the winning side on day 3 is quite phenomenal. Our ethos of, particularly with the bat in hand, of thinking, we know we're going to have to absorb pressure at times, but, also understanding that, we need to put it back on them at some point as well. And I thought that was a great example on day one from Harry Brook and Ollie Pope. Unbelievable bravery and backing of their own ability, but also you need to have the skill to be able to play like those two did. We got bowled out in 50 overs, but we had 270 runs on the board, which was a good score on that day one wicket. And then we obviously had a lot of time left with the ball to be able to make some inroads into New Zealand batting lineup. And so scoring 270 and having 5 New Zealand wickets at the end of day one really set this game up for us. But a lot of that has got to go down to the way that Harry Brook and Ollie Pope took on the New Zealand bowlers, didn't allow their very skillful bowlers to run up and put the ball where they wanted to over and over and over again. So huge credit to the bravery that those two in particular took to take on the New Zealand bowling attack, which set the game up for us.
Obviously, early this year, you made some changes to the team and you set it up in a different way with a couple of new faces. Are you starting to see that team deliver what you thought it would now and sort of look a bit different and a bit stronger?
Well, look, I guess, we've got some guys who are obviously inexperienced at some point, but, and now have some unbelievable experience under their belts. It's particularly with the ball, I think, Bryden Cass, Gus Atkinson have been so good for us in the time that they've been out there playing for England. And again, Chris Wokes has been top class as well. So, when you have a bowling attack like we've been able to field in these first 2 games with, the point of difference when it's required is massive for us. It's great to see the guys who we see having a very long future and being the sort of the main crop of bowlers for us going forward, doing really well and are being exposed to different conditions and obviously in different situations in games, and they always seem to put their hands up when it's required.
And I've got a stat here for you. You've captained the same number of games now as Mike Brearley, and you've won one more game than he did. It's pretty good company.
Sweet.
Chris, go ahead.
Ben, you come back in the first innings of both tests in pretty dodgy situations in the first innings, 20 off of 3. What does it say about the character of the team? You've come back and won both pretty comfortably.
That we back ourselves to be able to go out there and change games, and we feel like there needs to be a bit of impetus put in it, in particular with the bat. The wickets out here, particularly early on in the Test matches, have had a lot in it. When you're exposed to the skill of Matt Henry and Tim Stowley with that new ball, it's very, very tough. The top order have had it tough against those two at the top of at the start of the games, at the start of the innings. Those two are some of the most skillful bowlers that you're going to find out in these conditions. They know exactly what to do, how to bowl. Being under the cosh quite early on a few occasions, I'm just very proud of the way that we've gone out there and backed our ability and backed our way of thinking when we have been put under pressure. That let's go and put it back on them and see how they respond. Because as a bowler, you want to be able to run up and plonk it on length, plonk it on top of off stump over and over again. But sometimes when a batter's brave enough to take you on and try and knock you off that length, it's very hard to still run up and commit to doing that. Harry Brook, a great example of that on day one. Running down the wicket, hitting 6s over cover, and then hitting the same ball backing away and slicing it over point or over gully, and then they start bowling bounces. So it does work every now and again.
In terms of the bowling attack, you lost Jimmy Anderson and Stuart Broad, two of England's greatest. this group of bowlers, are they ahead of schedule of where you thought they would be when those two greats kind of exit the stage right?
I wouldn't say I had a schedule for them. You know, when you look around when we looked around the country and you know, had a crop of bowlers who we thought fitted our style of play that we wanted to take forward with this team. There was obviously quite a few names. You know, forget we've got, you know, the likes of, you know, Matty Potts and Ollie Stone, who haven't featured so far in this game. You know, they're two very, very good bowlers as well. But in terms of being ahead of schedule, I wouldn't say that, because I just never had anything sort of like that in my head. It was about getting games into the bowlers who we thought were going to take this bowling attack forward. So, you know, it's great seeing everyone who's sort of fallen into that category for us, for me and Brendan, and go out and put in performances that have resulted in England winning Test matches.
Ali, and then we'll do Vish.
Ben, can you just talk us through the moment Joe Root got his 100 with the old pancake flip? You obviously watched him go there, it looked like you enjoyed it.
I thought it was amazing that he had that man down there that whole morning, and then he brought it up, and he thought it was a good idea to scoop a 6'9" giant who's bowling rockets, and it came off. It was awesome. Absolutely class for him to have to do that. Just awesome. You know, he's desperate to do well for this team. He knows how important he is. When he does well, we generally do well. And yeah, he's you know, when he doesn't score runs in a Test match, it feels like he's let everyone down because he's that good. But I did call it to a few people saying that Joe Root's going to get 100 this game. Yeah, he's an unbelievable player.
Vish, please.
Ben, I just want to take you back to the toss, because you lost it. You said you would have batted anyway, and I wondered how much of that was because you wanted to take charge of the game, and you could with the trust you have in the batters, but also with the bowlers, knowing that you've got a well-rounded attack that can take, you know, 20 wickets or even the first 10 at different stages of the game.
When we were 40 for 4, I was glad I lost it. But no, to be honest, I actually had to go into the dressing room because I was just stood out in the middle before, I don't know, about 10 o'clock, just staring at the clouds, going, what's going to happen here? So I went in, came back out, and then it was, you know, bright blue sky and hot again, so I was like, I'm going to bat. A little bit of information from last time we played here as well, because, you know, that was played over a longer period of time, and it really started to spin. So there was a bit of, you know, if we do win the toss, we're going to go bat. That might benefit us as the game goes on. But yeah, that was pretty much it.
Any more questions? Yeah.
Okay. Last week you mentioned that in all likelihood Ollie Pope in future series would move back to 3. Has Jacob now given you a pretty nice headache and a slightly more difficult decision?
No, I wouldn't say it like that. I would say it as we've obviously found ourselves in a pretty you know, not difficult situation, but we obviously had a problem that we needed to fix before that first test with what happened to Coxie. You know, we had Jacob Bethell, and we obviously went with a team lineup that we thought was best to serve us well, and it just looked really good. So that's why we went with it again in the second game. And I know there was a sort of bit made of Beth and batting at 3 with his inexperience and the lack of sort of first-class cricket batting at the top of the order. Should we bat him lower down and ease him into the trials and tribulations of Test cricket? But, you know, me and Baz don't think like that. You know, you give a young lad with so much potential and so much talent, you know, why not let him go out there and expose himself to Test cricket at its toughest? If it hadn't gone well for him in these first 2 Test matches, that wouldn't have changed anyone's mind in our dressing room, or myself or Baz's perception of him as a player. You know, if he hadn't have been batting in the top 3, he wouldn't have came into this game with that confidence of, you know, smacking 50 odd, which I've got no doubt has led him into this game with the confidence to go out there and play the way that he did in our second innings. I love a young lad. I was devastated for him to not get that 3 figures, but I walked in and I said to him, I was like, oh, it's only 4 runs, isn't it? And his response was, yeah, but it would have been flair if I smacked that through the covers to bring it up. So, you know, class. I think he's proved a lot to a lot of people and proved why we rate him so highly.
Okay, I think we're done. Thank you.
Sweet. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.